Hey, Thomas, welcome back to our next session of this series of podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. So we are here in Germany. Weather's getting warmer, and looking forward for summer.
Good, good. Yeah. I'm sure. Just like winter, winters are great with snow and lots, and summers are great as well.
Yeah. Well, it's getting a little bit brighter, and the days get longer. So that's a nice thing to be here. If you are more to the equator, you don't have this big time differences between summer and winter. But if you're in these ranges, then yeah, you
Yeah,
feel it.
exactly.
Even we had some nice of these polar lights, last week showing up here in Europe. It's a very seldom phenomenon.
Wow. I think the night sky look like a greenish, yellow,
Yeah.
or
Yep,
a bluish.
exactly.
Wow. Good, good. So we started a topic last time, and we have a few more things to discuss in that. The topic was managing multiple projects,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of good discussion. And I encourage anybody who's not gone through those recording, watch that. And this is going to be another interesting discussion. And thanks to Thomas, he makes everything so interesting and based using his own experience, then the thing becomes so obviously interesting and a lot to learn from Thomas' experience. My job here is to extract everything out of him before he disappears.
Well, why should I disappear?
Yeah,
I did my first project exactly 50 years ago,
yeah,
1974, and from then, I had a lot of different kinds of topics, and yeah, I'm happy to share what I learned,
yeah.
and maybe it still is my learning and my perception and how I did it, and maybe you have another situation and you can see how you should do it.
Exactly. And please don't mind, I just jokingly disappear. Everybody has to disappear one day. So the important thing before we disappear from the planet, we leave something, legacy. So that's what I'm trying to do. Having podcast, webinar, leave as much or create as much, information in one place, content, knowledge, which hopefully many generation can benefit out of this.
Well, actually, Dharam, to set this straight, I'm not working for my afterlife, and not even for a legacy. So I'm working now and helping you and others maybe to get some perspectives, and then I'm open to discuss them, with anybody who will come up and will contact me and ask a question. So I have a lot of followers now on LinkedIn, and that's the main tool to discuss business topics. From time to time, I publish even a small paper. We have some discussions on these ideas. What I really try to do is to find something that is a little bit outside the mainstream, and have some. The mainstream can be learned from any webinar at PMI, or you go to a class, yeah, and you do the normal stuff. So I try a little bit to focus on the not so normal stuff. And
Yeah.
that's maybe sometimes what I tell you is a little bit might seem a little bit outlandish, but that's what I do.
Yeah, and thank you for keep sharing. You have been doing not only with me. We probably 65 or 67 podcasts. I've stopped counting, but every podcast when you come, obviously you have to prepare for that. You have to think about the topic, and then you spend an hour here. And this is a lot of effort from anyone. Of course, I mean I'm putting everything as well, but and you contributing to PMI chapters. Talking, writing. And yeah, obviously you reach at that point where people look towards you, like to listen from you. Okay, this guy has a lot to offer. So to be in your position, yeah, obviously, of course you work hard on that and reach to that position when people are looking for your advice and want to learn from you. It's a great accomplishment.
Well, I'm still working maybe not so hard as I used to, but as we discussed just before we started the podcast, I'm now on 3 PMI global award committees, looking for awards for individuals or for chapters and so on. And it's very interesting to see all these applications and see the other judges for the award, and have these discussions and see how even PMI is getting more professional and more structured in managing these award selection processes.
Great. Great. So thank you for doing all these things on behalf of the PM community. I'd like to thank you for that. Okay, let's come to the topics. Today's topic, managing multiple projects. Obviously, a lot of challenges in the managing multiple projects, especially when they are not even interdependent or connected, then become easy because they're part of the program. And when you have to deal with different customer, different type of work, and different requirements, how do you handle those things? And it's very common actually.
Yeah, so I think, when we see multiple projects, what comes into mind is project portfolio management, that we say, okay, then we have a portfolio, and that's true. But, most people who handle portfolios don't even call it portfolio, don't know that it's a portfolio management process that could be applied and help you get better. So portfolio management is one thing that you have somehow, let's say, a division or a branch or a whole organization having, let's say, 20, 30 projects, and then trying to put them into one dashboard and have an overview and see what's happening, and prioritizing them, what should be selected for the next period, and assigning resources and all this stuff. So this is a normally a task for a PMO, a project management office, when an organization says, well, okay, and I came to several organizations. So I built my first PMO in 1995 for an insurance company. And so the insurance company actually at any point of time, they had about 400 projects. And nevertheless, the portfolio that we managed and tried to look at was only 40 to 50 projects, because many of these 400 projects are small things that are handled by, let's say, an existing team, and you know what's going on. But you want to have a focus on these projects that are a little bit larger, more critical, and also that you spend your most money on, or your most people with resources with. Interestingly, my goal for this portfolio management at this insurance company in 95 was to ensure that the time that executives spend with escalations of customers is reduced. So really, the initial point to start the PMO was that the C-suite, the executives, they were called by customers every day. A project is not running well, and they said, "Walenta, come in and do something about it. We let's say reduce the calls from 3 per day to 3 per week." That would be a first nice step.
Yeah.
Now, then you start thinking, okay, how you do that? Who's complaining? And nobody complains about a small project, which takes maybe 2 weeks and so on. Nobody calls the CEO for that. But if you have already spent 2 million on something and a deadline is shifted, well, then you might call and say, okay, what are you doing there? So, and this was the first, initial point for the PMO in 95. And it went on like this. It's always the same thing. There is a pain in executives looking for, we have many projects, and then they say do something about it, that we get some order, some structure, some transparency to what we're doing, and we have maybe an early warning system to see what's coming up. So this is portfolio management, and at some point of time you call it portfolio management when you have to employ the right people, the right consultants, and set up a process and so on, and empower this group, PMO, to do that. That's the view of executives, yeah. But then we can also look at the view of new project managers. The project manager by accident. You're a good technical guy, a software engineer, whatever, and suddenly somebody comes to the, hey, I have a task for you. and now you are a project manager, and
Hey,
you have no clue what to do. And that's how most of us came into the business of project management. You too.
I
I
know. That's what I'm laughing. I'm smiling because of
yeah.
that.
And and guess what? You do the first task quite well. Somehow you manage to do that, and then let's say 3 months later, you have three of these tasks, and then you are in a multiple project environment, but not
Mm,
for the sponsors and so on, but for yourself. And then you ask yourself, okay, what can I do to make that feasible, to make that easy for me, to make that even possible, because if you struggle to run one project, and sometimes you are, depending on the circumstances, yeah, then you struggle more if you have three projects, and this is the way when you learn how to multitask, when you learn how to shuffle away some problems, prioritize correctly, and so on. And actually, there is no standard I know of about this kind of multi-project management dealing with the multiple projects for one project manager, except for the IPMA organization in Germany. They have a special interest group looking at this kind of stuff, and they have some nice ideas. It's related to portfolio management, but portfolio management is owned by the organization, and the PMO, top down, while managing multiple projects often is bottom up. The one project manager who has to support 3 or 4 or 5 projects, suddenly now then he wants some help how to do that.
yeah. Look, yeah, we all gone through this kind of situation. And when you're saying accidental project management and I don't know what, I'm remembering that day, those days when I started project and I did really well. And before I realized I was given a project, team of 12 people. And this is a small, medium-sized project with a different type of work. It's not just one type. Sometimes they're talking about marketing initiatives, some fixing and this thing, different type of work. And that's where my experience of managing multiple projects come. Lots of challenges, especially when your customer or your client, your counterpart in the client side, they keep changing the priorities. Okay, now this marketing initiative not important. This is more important. Let's drop it. Let's start this. You're halfway through, at the same time you're working on some system, some operation issues going on. So, that's where the juggling part comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we also see that sometimes in organizations. Why, for some years I was in the IBM outsourcing business, which is a division by itself, because outsourcing contracts are very special animals. They are very long, and the proposal and negotiation stage is also mostly over a year.
Yeah.
So and then you have an organization which is quite huge, but anyhow, this organization might be able to handle 5 or 4 of these outsourcing deals in the transition and so on at a time. And then, maybe customers come and you have 20 requests for proposal. And then it starts with portfolio management, because you have to be very selective, because you cannot really start on 20 outsourcing projects in parallel if you have the capacity to do only 4 or 5
Yeah.
quite well with the people you have available. And that's when I saw this division of outsourcing in IBM in Germany be very selective. So we had almost weekly boards when we looked at new proposals and could we do them, and it was very interesting to see portfolio management at work.
Exactly. All right, let me get started with the first question. What innovative strategies have you applied to control scope creep, especially when managing multiple projects with the interdependent elements?
Yeah. Well, if you like to be in control, and maybe you should, if you have a tight budget and the tight milestones, you really have to utilize stringent change control. Before you extend the scope, you have to be very knowledgeable about what you are doing in the consequences. How much more time would it take, how much different resources, and so on. And that's a process, and you can do that if you have a good scope base, if it's described. But in most cases, it's not described very well. So then you have to have a second strategy, and that's not only utilizing the process, and maybe a contractual agreement about change control, but you also have to build a relationship with the customer on the other side, who is posing these change requests or is posing these, or expecting this scope creep acceptance, and then you go back to the customer and you have to establish a relationship with them, which enables you to give and take. Sometimes you accept something, but sometimes he has to give something. And I experienced that very well when I had a big project from 92 to 95 with the Ministry of Justice in one of the German states. And the task was really to roll out the first IT ever to 50 courtyards in this state. And so we also had to write the software and all this stuff. And it was a really challenging project because the scope was very thinly defined.
Mm.
We had a big contract with 11 pages of scope definition.
Yep.
And from that, we developed a requirements document, a detailed requirements document with 600 pages. Now, you could expect there is some, how could there be any scope creep in that, But then again, you have to go back to the customer and say, hey, look, what are we doing here? And what is feasible? The purpose of the customer must not be to squeeze out all the costs of the provider, in this case IBM, and the purpose of IBM must not be to make the customer unhappy in the end with not delivering what is useful. But we have to come in this discussion what is really necessary. So you need both. You need a contractual provision about change control.
Yep.
And we certainly had this with this client, Ministry of Justice. They know one or two lawyers, and then also, but it's established this permanent discussion and a trust base, and look into the eyes, and that was. I think these are the two things. Like everything in project, you have to have the how do we do things, so the way of working, we agree on, but you also have the leadership component, what PMI now calls the power skills, how you deal with the people and how you influence them, how you understand what's happening, and it's if you have a broken relationship, if you have distrust, then it gets very hard even to implement the way of working.
Exactly. And yeah, especially when you're talking about multiple projects with interdependencies, like the interdependencies can be because of the resources, limited resources we have, and the financials part, we also have limited funds available, and suddenly change of scope happens. Somebody say, can you add this more into the whatever project you're doing? You can't just, first of all, as you correctly mentioned, follow the change control process. If somebody is raising a change request, look at, have a change request, have a change log, and have the right people into the change control meeting and discuss about pros and cons of adding or not doing, and what are the urgency and cost impact, time impact, various things we have to consider, and also impact to your other projects you are running at the same time.
Yeah.
Because when you are adding scope here, somebody has to work on it. And what is the impact of taking away this person from other project? The other project is equally important. So you have to be very smart when you're working with multiple projects, not just somebody say, yeah, add this, can you add new feature? Yeah, no problem. And that impacts your other 5 projects.
Yeah.
So very careful about that.
That's why I talked about give and take. If if you want another project to give you a resource, you know, you
Yeah.
also have to be able to give back that favor at some point of time. And yes, it's definitely this kind of joint feeling that we are working towards a common goal, even if it's not a common goal, you know, it's a common goal because yeah, we can do it better in a community than alone.
Exactly. All right. My next question is, what metrics and KPIs do you find most indicative of project's health, especially in multi-project environment?
Yeah, multi-project environments have the characteristics very often that you have multi project types. You know, there might be an agile project or more a software development project, the traditional way, or a hardware rollout project. So you have maybe not only one type or one size even of project, but multiple, and that demands that you have a kind of very abstract KPIs, you know. So if you have a only software development environment, you could look at KPIs from software development, like quality, how many bugs are found, how many requirements are there, function points, whatever. But if you have a more diverse set of project types, then you have more abstract things. And I was honestly, I came across maybe 2002, 2003, a method from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and some of them were bought by IBM at this time, and they brought with them that method to look at health checks for projects.
Mm.
And I found that, you know, from then until today, very valuable to employ, because it can be employed to any kind of project, size of projects. And these are the famous 7 keys of Project Health Check, you know. And so let me just list these 7 keys. You know, the first one is that the question is about stakeholders. So how are stakeholders involved? Are
Mm.
they satisfied? Do we have regular meetings? This kind of questions come up. And for each of these, like stakeholders, you in the end give a red light, yellow, or a green light, you know, as an assessor, and you might formulate some recommendations. If the guy says, okay, we have a good relationship with stakeholders, but we have not yet established a steering committee, then my recommendation would probably be to establish a steering committee, you know, and he can use this report to go back to the sponsor and say, look, we had a review, and one of the recommendations is to establish a steering committee. Let's do it. And these are the reasons, and I gave them the reasons during the review. So the second KPI would be, are the business benefits realized? You know, so the first question is, do you know them? Do you know why you are doing what should be the impact on business of that project? You know, and there are also some questions around that. And you could have a red, a green, and a yellow light. Then the third KPI is about risks. Are risks understood? Are they managed? Are they identified, analyzed, and so on? The fourth is what you are doing predictable. Do you have a plan that is looking at the budget, but also, you know, at the milestones and the other maybe key points that come out of it? Is the scope you have, so is it realistic? Is the time, you know, is it somehow contained? You know, is there a boundary for the scope? And is that the inner scope you have defined? Is it consistent? You know, realistic? I found it very often that you have a long list of requirements that partly contradict each other. You
Mm.
you only can have it one way, and if both ways are requested, at some point you'll come to the insight that you cannot do both, you know, and then you have to deal with it. Better you do it upfront. So this is the realistic part of this. Is a scope realistic question? And then we look for team performance. So what is the team performance? And is it somehow measured? So do we have a kind of team moral index? So do we understand how the team is working? Do we have some external insights into the team? And then the last and the seventh key or KPI is, do we reach the benefits for ourselves, for the project organization, delivery organization? Because, as IBM, when we were contractual projects, if the customer was satisfied getting all the benefits, we might be at loss anyhow. Maybe, yeah. We should not be, and we must not be. So there are two kind of benefits which I looked at: the benefits of the recipient, of the customer, and the benefit of the organization IBM.
Exactly. Yeah. So having right KPIs which is applicable to your project is important. And you mentioned 7 key KPIs. All are important, whether you talk about earned value management or score, look at from the budget, so benefit from different angles. Everything is like when you go for a doctor checkup, they don't just say, okay, look at that, you look smart, handsome. No, they look at every part of you and check, everything is going perfectly, performing everything well. And
And maybe, reflect, I had a customer 5 years ago, and we established these health checks. And normally, that your health checker, you're the one-on-one with me, the reviewer, and the project manager, and there was no paper on the table. We just discussed about the points, and it took less than 60 minutes. Go through the 7 points and to identify some issues. And then I used maybe an hour or two to summarize it and to put up a minutes with some recommendations and send it to him. And then he went back, okay, I understood, or no, please change this and that. And then we discussed maybe. And then this report went to the sponsor. Though the sponsor said, okay, there was an independent review with my project, and these are the recommendations. So that's a very strong motivation to act on the recommendations, because it's not just a dialogue between the sponsor and project manager, but also external review was there. So this was a very cheap assessment, 1 hour, one-on-one, and maybe 2 hours, and no paperwork. It's just putting that together. And the good thing is, we had Scrum projects, and we had SAP rollout projects, and we had hardware installation projects. So it's quite different types. So with these 7 keys, we could apply them to any kind of project. So because you are just mentioning earned value, and value might be a little bit hard to be implemented in the different types. It can be done, but you normally do it with a very predictable project type. Interesting, the Scrum projects were the better projects than the other projects because they were more aware of the business benefits, the value they want to provide, and they had the risks discussed with the product owner and so on. So they're much more in control, the HR projects, than the other projects.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So next question is, what critical piece of wisdom would you like to share with the PMs about harnessing collective learning from project failures based on your experience?
Yeah. Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is if you don't have a mental crisis, if you are still calm and understand what's going on. So the first thing, piece of wisdom I want to give here is avoid any blaming.
Oh, yeah.
You have lessons learned, and they might be collective. As I heard, not in my lessons learned sessions, but in many others, some kind of blaming starts, and you have to interrupt that and stop it. And this is not a blaming session, and if you start blaming, you create conflicts, and then you there is no guilt, no shame in this meeting. It's just about the facts.
Yeah.
And I had a very nice presentation from crew of former U.S. Air Force pilots, and they shared how they did the Air Force missions when they went out. It's something, and it's always life critical, especially if you encounter, let's say, enemy airplanes and so on. But even if you don't, there's a weather out there, and you might be able to land not on your aircraft carrier and so on. A lot of things happen. But what they said, the most important thing in our process of these missions was not preparation. It was a debrief that we learned from what we could have done on that mission that we just have in our brains. So they didn't call it lessons learned. They called it debrief.
Debriefing, yeah.
And it included all these pilots in that particular mission and what they could do better next time. And because their lives depend on that understanding and knowledge, they were very interested in learning that. And another piece of I wouldn't say wisdom, but understanding. I have on LinkedIn, I have one article talking about lessons learned, and I think in projects, especially in software projects, we tend not to do proper lessons learned because of different reasons. It could be that the people say, "So I'm a specialist. I know about it. I don't have to. I don't want to share because then maybe I don't have the next job or whatever," which is bullshit. Who is recognized as a valuable contributor to the team? The one who shares a lot. The one who helps, who coaches, who gives away with the benefits. If you see how humanity has developed, in technology, in agriculture, in everything what we do, it's by sharing, and by making sure the knowledge is preserved and given to the other generations even. So it's lessons learned and knowledge sharing is not only from you to me or from this project to the next one. It's giving back to the organization you're a part of and improving that organization.
Exactly. So look, the lesson learned is very, very important. The thing is that if you are running the similar project again next month, next year, you kind of know what happened. So you will be careful. Now, when it comes to the organization level, the similar project is going to be done by somebody else. But the problem is they will make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Because they have no learning from you. So the best thing is you capture all the learning into your lesson learned repository. And it's not about blaming and shaming other people, as you say, it's not about that. It's about what learning you have, something which did not work. Now find out why it did not work. What we can do in future to avoid that negative consequence of that particular process. Or it's not about shaming or blaming somebody. It's about what could have been, we could have done to avoid that in the future projects.
Yeah. And to be honest, I learned a lot from reading other project reports and lessons learned, and because it's not only the negative view of avoid some things, but to learn how to do that. We are looking for methodologies and tools and techniques and templates. Everybody who is new to project management asks for templates because from templates they understand these have been used somewhere in the project and it's a practical advice. So if I read that, maybe I don't use them 100%, but it can give me an idea how to do that. And I also have to point out another important view on knowledge we are giving on. We differentiate between the knowledge we can document and share and put down on paper, and the tacit knowledge, which is knowledge how to do things. And you cannot really learn them by reading a process handbook or whatever. Give an example of tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is how you kiss. You can read a book about kissing, but in the end, you have to do it, and maybe have a guidance how to do that, because a lot of emotions and a lot of automatic behaviors go into that. And it's a similar thing, when you are a project manager. I think tacit knowledge can be shared by experienced project managers best when you assist them in a project meeting. How do you run a meeting? Well, you watch people who run good meetings, and then you copy them somehow. Okay, you can read a book, or you can attend a class, but the best way is to watch people who do it, and how's it called, to shadow them. Shadowing is a part, or project assistance. So these are a good task for your first year or so.
Yeah. Look, now, believe it or not, you will start getting lots of mentoring requirement for how to kiss, because a lot of people don't know how to do that. But anyway, so you will have lots of training classes around that area. And you
there are a lot of people out there earning a lot of money on it.
Yeah, good money to earn. So let's start some programs on that. Mentoring program for kissing.
I'm a certified kisser.
Certified. Or foundational level. Then we have medium, and then we have. Anyway, so look, it's good. And you learn from the kiss, first kiss and second kiss. Anyway.
Well, or maybe kiss is a little bit touchy, but think about bicycle riding. How did you learn bicycle riding?
Yeah.
It's not that you read a book and then went on the bike and then you go. No, you try it and you fall from the bicycle, and you have to learn how to keep your balance. And maybe when you were a kid, your father held you in the back and made sure you go forward.
Exactly. Let's change the topic. Let's come to the next question. In today's interconnected global economy, project teams are often distributed across different geographic locations, time zones. How do you overcome the challenges of managing remote teams and fostering effective communication and collaboration in multi-project environment?
Yeah. Well, because people don't see you face to face, just once in a project, you have to rely a lot on your online presence, and you can show your leadership online, and by asking the right questions, by setting up the right meetings, by being empathetic, by also giving a clear direction, and giving help when needed. But you can only do that if people trust you from the distance, and that means you have to build your very consciously build your reputation, and your reputation is your track record, is maybe the recommendations you get on LinkedIn, or the recommendations you give on LinkedIn. So if you have let's say 20 years on the job and you have zero recommendation on LinkedIn, I can tell you you don't have a good reputation. And it's not only the number of followers on LinkedIn you have, but also how often are you communicating with them, either directly or in commenting on articles. Not only liking them, liking is good, or resharing them, but also commenting, giving a positive comment. And then everything you do and everything you comment, show ethical behavior and integrity. And if you do that, have a track record, build your network, and beyond followers, and be ethical, then you build your online reputation. And that's quite easy. In ethics, I've seen many good people with a good track record and a very good followership in terms of what they know and how they are respected. But then they post, I wouldn't say hate comments, but very emotional events. And when I look them up in which time zone they are, sometimes it's Friday night at midnight, and you understand, okay, there is already a bottle of red wine in the play probably, but that's the point. Don't post when you're drunk. Don't if you are emotionally, don't post now, but sleep over it. It's like answering an email. It was so easy before email when we had to rely on paper letters. You received a letter blaming you of something, you got emotional, and then you still had a day or two to reply to it. Another letter. With email, this changed a lot because there are people really replied directly, and you may recall these kind of emails. When they say, "Okay, now he made a mistake," yeah, and it's even worse now with social media. Yeah.
Yeah.
So reputation, leadership. And then I think what's also needed, necessary in the environment you are with multi-projects, um, professionalism, you know. So you know what you do in running an organization that's virtually set up. You have a hierarchy, you have meetings, you have communications. And if you are professional in this kind of communication skills, you will earn respect and reputation.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, we have nowadays, not only now, while working for companies, and I start doing remote work like this for since 2000 even. I mean, my team was
Yeah.
sitting in Manila or in New Zealand or in India or somewhere else, and you have to build rapport with them. Yes, one is getting the work done. Second is building relationship rapport with them, especially
Yeah.
in those days when you cannot see them because everything was, the Zoom was not there, or this video sharing was not very common, very costly. And so you still have to build relationship with them. Now, thanks to the Zoom and thanks to LinkedIn and Facebook, you'll get to know a lot about the person in advance before you start talking. You know how the person look and feel and how they behave, how they write recommendation, and they got a recommendation that tells you a lot about the person. So, do your homework, do your research about, whether in your client or your sponsor, your team members, and build relationship with them. The important thing is if you have
Yeah.
good relationship, chances are that they will help you when you're really in need. And if you don't have a relationship, you will find something in you and they say, okay, so what? We are paying you money. You have to do it. You should have done it.
And maybe if you can, or no, this is the wrong side. If you should strive to meet them face to face once a
Yeah,
year,
exactly.
because that is so invaluable. For instance, you go to the PMI congresses and meetings, and you meet all these people only once a year,
Yeah.
but it's so impactful on the relationship, on the trust. If you meet somebody for the second time, you already say hello and smile.
Mm.
Everybody smiles on these meetings because they are happy to meet these people,
Yeah.
and they understand we are connected and we have the same common ground. Project management and PMI, and that's going on. When I was at IBM outsourcing, we had two teams in India, one in Pune, one in Delhi. And so in Pune, about 120 people. And we managed really to go there. Well, I was there once a year, but there were others, who quality assurers or whatever, who were there even for 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm.
But not only that the Germans or the Europeans went down there for some time to work there, to build connections, and then you always invited on the weekend to the families and dinners and everything. That is very important too. But we also brought people to Germany,
Mm.
working visa, even with family, and some stayed in Germany, some went back. And for them it was really like a different world. If you come to Germany, and then I can talk about a lot of interesting stories that came up with these people from Pune coming there.
Exactly.
It was not so good with the people from Delhi, because in Delhi we were just getting some services, but you could tell the difference by if you call somebody in Pune,
Mm,
you get a very much more personal contact and response.
exactly. Okay, great. Let's move to the next question. As agile methodologies and hybrid project management approach becoming more common, how do you think traditional project management practices will change in multi-project environment? And what strategies do you suggest for integrating different methodologies to ensure project success?
Yeah, yeah, and well, this is a nice question, but you should know my answer. I think agile fades away anyhow.
Hmm.
Uh, Agile has been a hype for the last 20 years, and there's a lot of development. The last PMI Pulse 2024 states that there is no influence of methodologies, agile or hyper or something, on success of projects. There's no influence of methodologies on the success of projects.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, if you start a project, don't know what you do, and you have some options, you can use HR. It's of no harm in most cases, but it can be beneficial for some cases. So I think traditional project management is a question, hybrid, agile. What is the future? And the future is, I think that we go back to something that was traditional project management. Some call it hybrid, but hybrid is only a valid term if you have two opposites somewhere, you marry. No, project management is about selecting the right ways of going forward. And making sure that you can measure success. Success is a very interesting topic, and
Yeah.
because traditionally success was defined as in time, in budget, in scope. So these three triangle things, and they are very much there again, but um, not all projects can measure it like that. So what is the success of we discuss it every time, but what is the success of the Sydney Opera House or
Mm.
the Hamburg Philharmonic? They were not in time, not in budget, not even in scope, but now everybody's happy about them. So success is depending on when you measure it and who is measuring it. If you are starting a project, the success might be that you get approval to start.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why most business cases are built, to get an approval to start. But then you understand, costs are underestimated and benefits are overestimated. You have a wonderful ROI, and everybody in his mind, knows that's not going to happen anyhow.
Yeah.
Uh, and but on the other hand, you have huge mega projects like the Olympics. They always are over budget, but they always are on time.
Yeah.
Maybe the scope is a little bit flexible,
Yeah.
but you don't skip an Olympic sports category. That will happen regardless what is. So in that respect, I think the Olympic projects were very successful. And that maybe the cost overruns are there, extraordinary, also has some other reasons. So I don't agree with what Professor Fleisberg was saying about mega projects, and he did also some research on Olympics, saying they were always over budget and so on. Yes, but it depends what you put into the budget. And I had the chance to look into one particular Olympic Games project. And if you look at the scope that is under control of the project team, so the running of the games, of the sport events, and they had about 15,000 volunteers to onboard and to do that. So a huge project in itself, and this project was in time, in budget. But if you include all the construction work on
Mm.
venue on streets, on railways, on what you do,
Yeah.
especially in some countries, or no, I would say in all countries, you have a lot of corruption going on, and there's a waste of money, and then there's no wonder that there is some budget order.
And do you see all the countries have the corruption?
Every country has corruption,
Yeah.
it might be in different ways. Some is more open when you hand cash, but other corruption is if you
Yeah.
uh,
Anyway, so that topic is for some future time, future podcast, and how to deal with the. Anyway, not like that's going to talk. Anyway, so thank you, Thomas, for another insightful discussion, and I hope people are learning from this session, or will continue to learn. We'll have more session coming up, and we'll talk more and a new topic and something exciting. So
my pleasure.
yeah, thank you, and it's always pleasure talking with you and exchanging messages or talking. You are wonderful.
Thank you, Dharam, and you are wonderful too, because you are so steadfast and continue with these podcasts. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you for everything, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.